Assalamu alaikum. Welcome everybody with IELTS with Shaiban. Today we are continuing the series of Task 1. Today we are going to talk about Task 1 Episode 3. In this part we are going to talk about, multigraphs and the language of cycles and processes and also maps. In this part, the main focus is going to be how to deal with multigraphs. Sometimes we have 2, 3, 4, and even 4 graphs. Also, the language of the processes, the cycles, and finally, some examples of task 1, which is the maps. Good luck. Well, before we start the class of today, I want to make a revision about the 4 types of the diagrams needed for language. Language of change. So this is language of change, and language of comparisons, and language of cycles, and language of showing differences between devices or apparatus or illustrations. In these 4 types, or in these 4 tables, as I have mentioned previously, it's very important to know each type separately and how to use it in its appropriate way. The first table shows language of change, as you can see here, showing going down, as it can be seen very clearly, showing something going down here, so, or going up, or no change, or constant change. The most important thing is to show me, is it a small change or a big, large change? The second table, which is a very important table, as I said before, it is the language of comparisons. And again, you have here to use the different techniques, used in these, types of comparisons. You can use concessional sentences in contrast to B. A is larger by a narrow margin, or you can use superlative structures that by saying the most, the second, the highest, the third largest, and so on. The third type, as I mentioned previously, is to talk about, the language of cycles or processes, which I'm going to talk about in detail today, inshallah. You have here 2 things to focus on. It's the stage, which is the first or second, middle, and last stages, and also to show topic development by expressing purposes or showing causes and results. The final figure is to show, illustrations or differences between devices, mechanical devices, electronic devices. And as you can see here, we have 2 important things, is to show the position of for example, the apparatus or the device, and of course the purpose of that, for example, function or device. Also, you can use, for example, topic development by showing, for example, using general words or useful language, as for example, talk about the device in more detail. So from the previous tables here, as you can see here, this is a summary, or we have the major 4 types today. I'm going to talk about, inshallah, in detail. As you can see here, the first is about the cycle, and you can see here the life cycle of a frog. Then we have the devices, or talking about illustrations and how to make the differences. Also, we have the different types of maps, and we are going to talk about them also today. And finally, multigraphs, and I'm going to talk about 2 types of multigraphs in detail. And I mean by multigraphs in here, that means similar graphs or different types of graphs. All right, let's start with multigraphs. As you can see here, we have 4 pie charts, And these 4 pie charts, they represent 2 countries, Yemen and Italy. And you can see here, as you can see here, the graphs are similar. I mean by similar, we have the same year, 2000 here for Yemen, and again the same figure for Italy. Also projected, we say, or future projections for 2050, and again 2050. In this way here, again, as in any IELTS task 1, you have to rephrase the question as usual, and you have to give the general overview. I mean by the general overview, as I said in the last episode, it's a summary to give the general thing, but with some extra or specific, we say, extra specific information. So I want you now, if you can see here, it's about Yemen 2000, in the year 2000, and in the year 2000, the percentage of Italy. So for example, I can say, for example, that almost half of, we say, the Yemenis, nearly half of the population, for example, they were, we say, from 15 to 59, or we say the highest percentage, or a very high percentage, almost 0.5%, were young people, and this figure is going to increase even further in the future, or in the year 2050. Also here you can talk about, we say, Italy, and you can say more than half, or nearly, we say nearly 2/3. I mean nearly 2/3 because 60, as you can see, is 61.6. So I say nearly 2/3 of Italians were very young, and this is going to be decreased or declined to, we say, more than 1/3, which is of course 46.2%. The idea here, the overview, you have to select any 2 figures, any 2 things, and you can consider them as the main change that happened, or the main differences that are between the 2 trends. In your writing, you have here, as I said, you have to summarize the information. That means you don't have to write about every single thing. So you can select your figures. Maybe you compare, we say, 2,000 Yemenis, or in the year 2000, in Yemen, you can compare the youngsters between them and between Italy. And then you can move to talk about maybe the big changes or the significant difference between, we say, the youngsters, or very, we say, young ages from 0 to 14 in Yemen in 2000, and of course the same area or age in Italy. Then you can shift maybe to compare the changes that happened in case of, we say, let's say, ages from 15 to 59 in Yemen, and you compare it with its, we say, part in Italy in the same year 2050. And finally you can talk about, we say, the percentage of very young people from 0 to 14 in Yemen, which is, of course, it's going to be significantly higher than the ones are proposed in 2050 in Italy. The second type of multigraphs, as you can see here, we have, we say, different graphs. I mean by different, as you can see here in front of you, we have a pie chart here. This is a pie chart. Then we have a table. There are different ways to answer such a question. Again, as usual, you have to rephrase the question. That means you have to change several words from the question, and you have to give the general overview. Again, you have to give me what's the summary, and then you have to add some extra information to that summary. I may suggest here that you can have, let's say, 2 types or 2 paragraphs concerning this question. I mean, you can make, for example, one paragraph about the pie chart. You start with the pie chart. So you give a general overview and you make comparisons and you select some information and you make, talk about the differences between them. Then you go to another paragraph, a completely new paragraph. Then you write another overview and you describe the trends in here and you make the comparison. So I suggest for this type of, comparisons, I suggest using actually two overviews to make it easier, because the information in both tasks are different. So in this way, you have to be precise and you have to choose graph body 1, for example, talk about the pie chart. After you give the overview, make comparisons and so on. Then you finish with body 2, and then you give an overview again, another overview, and then you make comparisons where relevant. Then finally you can sum up with a very simple sentence concerning both graphs. Now let's move to another, multigraphs, and this time we are dealing with maps. Maps are one of the issues which are considered for task 1, and in this way here we can have maps concerning, maybe as you can see here, about a town at the present time, and town in the same town, and the development will happen to this town in the future. I want just to drop your attention here just to a few things. Again, as a task 1, you have to rephrase the question and you have to give me the general overview. The general overview here, you can see that there are lots of differences that are going to happen to the, scale of the city and its buildings, and of course to its future functions, or more future, for example, buildings or facilities. As I said, because it's a summary, you have to select, for example, from map number 1, and in this way, and then of course you have to link it with map number 2. For example, if we are let's talk about, for example, the school area here, or the housing area. Let's talk about the housing area here, and look at what happened to the housing area in the second map. So you can say that is going to be, for example, is going to be shifted from the middle of the present city or present town to the future, is going to be moved westward of the city. Also, if you look here, we have just, for example, a single road in here. This single road is going to be enlarged to a highway that is going to circle the city, and you can develop by saying, for example, you explain this is going to be more people to use it and to make the access to the city easier. So that's called topic development. Also, when we talk about the shopping center here, in this area here, and the car park, whatever, and you can compare it with the empty areas they used to be in the past. So in this way, you can make or talk about big change. Also, if you want to make comparisons, you can use, for example, the park in here and the smaller area of the park in the future, map. In this way, you are going to select and summarize the information, and you have selected and you have reported main issues and made comparisons where relevant. And of course, I want you to focus on the word purpose or results. If you want to develop your topic fully, you have to give one or two, let's say, results, why this happened and what's the purpose of it. The third type of, we say, task 1, which I'm focusing on today, is the language of cycles. And as you can see here, we have the life cycle of, we say, a frog, and of course its life. And as usual, you have to rephrase the question, and you have to give the general overview. The general overview, or one of the general overviews, I'm suggesting, maybe just as an example, we can say the life cycle shows here different parts of the life cycle of a marine animal, which is the frog, and it can be seen that it takes 4 stages, 1, 2, 3, 4 stages in water, while the rest of the stages can be off water, or you can say on and off, or you can talk about significant changes that happen to the animal during its, we say, development. Also, again, you have to write a summary, and you have to select the information. The cycles and processes are different from other types of task 1 in 3 areas. Number 1, you have to focus on what is called word formation. So word formation here, you have to, let's say, for example, take the word. We say, for example, tadpole develops here. So when you write about it, you say tadpole development. So develops, you change it to development. And mature frog, or you can say the maturity. So you can change mature to maturity. So number 1 is word formation. Number 2, and most importantly, you have to show the stages of the cycle. So you start from here. So this is the first and beginning. Then you can talk about the middle stages. Then you have to show me this is the final stage. So number 1, word formation. Number 2, stages, or we say steps. And number 3, and again, it's a very important thing, to show me sometimes results or purposes. I mean by results or purposes, what's the result of this stage? For example, if I say small tadpole emerges to a tadpole development, or develops in this area, so we can see here the tail gets bigger. So in this way you can develop it so the animal can swim even better in its marine, we say, environment. Or you can talk about the development of the legs in here. So in this way, this will enable the animal to be, for example, to use these limbs for movement in the future. Again, you can talk about the development here and the purpose of what happened to that young frog. For example, it has now 4 limbs, so the animal can use its limbs, for example, for swimming and movement. Another extra point, which I don't like to call it, we say, a 4-point, but because it's a cycle, so something has been done. So I want you to use, for grammar as a language, the passive voice. So passive voice, we say the first cycle is finished or is when, or the process is finished or is done when. So you can use passive voice as one of the grammar rules which are important or essential for this kind of task 1. The last part of the class today, I'm going to talk about, we say illustrations or devices. As I have shown you previously, this type of task 1, we have maybe 2 cameras, and one of them is a digital camera, and the other one is an old type of, or an old version of a camera. So as you can see in front of you here, we have 2 types of mobile phones. This one, which is the old version of mobile phones, and this one is the modern or the contemporary mobile phone. Again, as usual, you have to rephrase the question by selecting several words and changing them. and you have to give the general overview. The general overview here, you can see, we say huge differences between the old part or the old type of mobile phones and the contemporary one. Then you have again to do the same thing by writing a summary, by selecting, reporting main issues and make comparisons with where relevant. The issue here, you have to, we say, talk about two things. First, you have to show position. For example, if you talk about the earphone, you have to show me it's on the top part of the, we say, of the device. While, for example, if we talk about the extra function button, for example, you have to tell me it's in the middle part of the device. So you have to show me position, top, middle, button, or bottom, or you can have it left, right. You can talk about the left, right, the right side, the left side of the device. Also, again, you have to show me purpose, and purpose means here topic development. So if I talk about the colored, full color screen or display, you have to show me the purpose. What's the purpose of, for example, in this here, we say the user can, for example, see colored photographs or colored videos. Also about, for example, the extra function area here, button, for example, when you talk about this red button here, of course, so you can talk about the purpose, and this way the user can use, for example, log on to the internet, and you have, you can log on to the internet, of course, and to play games and so on. If you make comparisons, you have to use the figures in here. For example, if you talk about the weight in the contemporary, which is less than a half of the older version, and this way you can show me that's a big, we say, change between the two. I wish this video gave you, some information about the different types of task 1. And for further, we say questions or suggestions, you can log on to the video and write your comments, and I'll make my best to answer you. Thank you for being with me, and this is IELTS with Shaiban. Thank you. As we have seen previously in this episode, how to deal with multigraphs and how to develop a fully written task 1 concerning multigraphs. Also, the language and the techniques needed for cycles and processes. Also, some of the tips and secrets of dealing with some, we say, types of task 1 IELTS, like writing concerning or about maps. I wish that you like this episode, and I wish you all the best with IELTS with Shaiban. Thank you.